I'm Liliane Grace, author of this book, The Mastery Club. And I take it that you've signed up for this program because you've read the book and now you'd like to take the principles and the 10 lessons out of the book and into your life so that you can achieve your goals and dreams and what's important to you. Great. Whether you're a child, a teenager or an adult, there'll be value for you in this program. Let's go for personal breakthroughs. You know, the first lesson in the book is effectively taught by Ms. Mackey, that visiting pottery teacher. He says to the kids, what would you make if you knew you couldn't fail? If you were totally confident of succeeding? What would you do with this bit of clay in front of you? And what would you do with your life? And Nina picks up on that lesson and she says to the kids, our thoughts and our attitudes are really powerful. She tells them the X-ray story about the two fellows who were given each other's medical reports because they got mixed up. So one of the gentlemen who was really sick got the report saying, you're well, you're healthy, it's all good. And the other fellow who was really healthy got the report saying, you only have a few weeks to live. So that man, who'd been quite healthy, believed the report, got sick and died. And the fellow who'd been really sick got the report saying, you're fine, you're all clear. And he became completely healthy. Pretty amazing story. You've probably seen the Powers of 10 video by now. And you're aware that when we go into the subatomic level of particles and beyond, like to really, really tiny levels, we see that everything is energy. It's energy. Our bodies, things that look solid like this table, are not solid. They're all energy. And what that X-ray story shows us is that our bodies that look solid are actually responsive to our thoughts. That's a pretty stunning realization, isn't it? Nina tells the kids it's all divine substance, which is this energy. And so what are you going to do with your piece of clay or your life? Well, the purpose of this first session is to become aware, to really appreciate the power of our minds and our potential, to dream big and to not be stopped by anything, none of the obstacles out there in the world, to let nothing stop us until we've achieved our goals. We're going to work together as a support group to support and challenge each other into achieving our goals. So before we start, a few practical things. First of all, make sure you've got some sort of a notebook where you can keep a track of your goals and your process, your journey. So write things down, okay? Secondly, I've already given you a task to do, which is to write how you would like things to be in 10 weeks' time when you finish the course, what you'd like to have achieved, what you'd like to have learned, gained, okay? Now, we're going to meet through these videos. Once a week, I'll give you a little video lesson out of the book and suggest some tasks to you that I'd like you to then go away and tackle, and then we'll communicate with each other through the forum, all right? So let's jump into the very first session. Checking my notes. Did you watch the awareness experiment? If you haven't, I won't give it away, but you know, that demonstrates something called the reticular activating system, which is the part of the brain that sorts and processes all the information coming into us. Because you know, there are billions of bits of information coming into our minds through our senses at every second of the day. And if we had to consciously deal with it all, we would go mad. So the reticular activating system sorts and filters and processes that information so that we only pay attention to the bits that are important to us. For example, when my children were little, we bought a yellow van. Well, you know, I had never noticed yellow vans before that, but once we had ours, I saw yellow vans everywhere. There seemed to be one on every street corner. Here's another example. One day I went to the kitchen, opened the drawer, looking for a funnel. It didn't have to be any particular funnel, but I had a particular funnel in mind. I was thinking of a big white one. Looked in the drawer, couldn't see it, closed the drawer, no funnel. Then my daughter said, what are you looking for? I told her. She opened the drawer and pulled out a little funnel, which I hadn't even seen because I was looking for the big one. So, you know, this is a really interesting thing. Have you ever had that experience where you're so fixated on looking for something in one particular form that you miss it in another form? You don't see something that's right under your nose, like me with the funnel? It's because that reticular activating system, or RAS for short, goes looking for what it thinks is important to us. Here's another example. If we go around saying, I'm stupid, our reticular activating system faithfully says, okay, and it goes looking for proof that we're stupid. If we go around saying, I'm a great person, our reticular activating system says, okay, and it goes looking for proof that we're a great person. See, it doesn't care what we say. It's just doing its job of finding proof, finding more of the same, delivering to us what it thinks we think is important, right? Very interesting stuff. Do you think this is useful? Do you think this is dangerous? It's a bit of both, isn't it? But the brilliant thing is that we're in charge of the instructions that we give our reticular activating system, because we tell it what to look for. Here's an interesting story. You know Dr. John DeMartini? He wrote the foreword in the Mastery Club, and I've written a book about him. That's John as a child, and that's John today as an adult. Today, he is a best-selling author, a multimillionaire, and a consultant, travels all around the world, is amazing. But when he was a kid, his teacher said to him, you know, you can't read, you can't write, you're probably not going to amount to anything. And John believed her. By the age of 14, he still couldn't read or write. And so he dropped out of school. And on his travels, because he headed off across America to go surfing, he met a couple of wise men. And one of them said to him, say this statement every day, I am a genius and I apply my wisdom. And so John began to say that statement. And you know, things started to change. He ended up learning to read, began to study, wrote books, and ended up with this extraordinary life. Have a look at this. This is a picture of John signing all the books that he's written. This is a picture of him speaking to big crowds. This is the ship that he lives on at times. So how did that happen? When he went around saying, I'm stupid, you know, and believing what his teacher had said, he was stupid. He couldn't read. When he went around saying, I'm a genius, he became a genius. You know, Henry Ford, who was the man behind the Ford motor car, said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Interesting, huh? Have you heard of the 4-minute mile? For ages it was believed that it would be impossible for a human being to run a mile in under 4 minutes. The lungs would explode, you'd have a heart attack, you know, there were all concerns about how the body just simply wasn't up to it. And then one man, a man called Roger Bannister, did it. He ran a mile in under 4 minutes, and after he did it, a whole lot of people did. They looked at him and they went, well, if he can, I can. Interesting, huh? Bob Proctor, who was on The Secret and also has a great program called You Were Born Rich, tells a story of a fellow who worked on the railroads. One day he went into the refrigerator car to do some task, went to come out and couldn't. He'd locked himself in. He hammered on the door, but it was leaving time. It was the end of the day, everyone else was going. No one heard him, and he was stuck in there for the night. And this guy thought, oh my God, I'm going to die, because this is a freezer car. And he settled down to die, and in the morning when they came and they opened that freezer car, he was dead. But you know, the really sad and ironic thing about that story is that the freezer mechanism hadn't been working, and so it had actually never got beyond just cold. But he believed it was freezing, and he'd actually been writing through the night these comments on the sides, on the walls of the freezer car, saying it's getting colder, can't feel my feet, things like that. Interesting, isn't it? The things that we tell ourselves that we believe are really quite powerful. Do you remember the Powers of 10 clip? We learned from that solids are not solids, they're just energy. But the other thing to learn from that is that things are not just as they appear, right? What else isn't as it appears? You know, for years we thought that the earth was flat, and if you went far enough you'd fall right off the edge. Now we know that isn't true at all, right? The earth is a sphere, it's a globe. Dr. DeMartini thought he was stupid, but he wasn't. People thought that the 4-minute mile was an impassable barrier, but it wasn't. The guy with the terminal illness thought he was going to be sick and die, and he didn't have to. The Mastery Club motto is see the invisible, hear the silent, do the impossible. And what that's telling us is to not fall for appearances, to hold the vision of how we want things to be, rather than falling for how they look at the moment. Because things aren't always as they appear. Solids ain't solids, and situations aren't as fixed as they look. In the Mastery Club, I also tell the story of the basketball visualization story. Now, in this story, there are 3 groups. The first group plays basketball. They train every day. The second group is told, don't train, just in your mind. Just imagine, just visualize that you're getting a perfect basket every time. And the third group is told you don't have to do anything at all, right? What happens? The first group that was out there physically training, they managed to improve by 24%. The second group that was only training in their mind, in their imagination, improved 23%. The third group didn't improve at all. But isn't that amazing? 24% for the group that physically trained, 23% for the group that only mentally trained. What's that telling us? That there is a part of the brain that can't tell the difference between real and imagined. And that can really work in our favor if we work with it deliberately. If we deliberately visualize what we want to achieve, that can absolutely work for us in our favor. Our thoughts are powerful, and we can use this power of our minds to create useful changes in our lives deliberately. Say to yourself, our thoughts are powerful, and we can use this power of our minds to create conscious change in our lives. What you say to yourself and you believe is incredibly powerful. Say that right now. What I say to myself and believe is incredibly powerful. You know, when I was going through a stuck time in my life and I was determined to change, I'd go walking in the park and I had these 3 affirmations. And the first one was, my words and thoughts determine my destiny. The second one was, I am in charge of my words and thoughts. And the third one was, the faster I change my language to empowering phrases, the faster I transform my life. The second Mastery Club lesson is about choosing a goal and committing to it, right? And we're going to look at that one next week. But you know, there are 3 stages to achieving anything. The first stage is the idea. The second stage is when we build on the idea with our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And the third stage is when we see the result in the world, right? And this pattern applies to anything. I mean, you want to build a table. First of all, you have the idea. Then you build it, you think it through, you come up with plans, you get enthusiastic, you go shopping, you buy the wood and all the stuff that you need, and you build your table, and then you end up with your result out in the world. It's the same with it, organising an outing, organising a party, just absolutely anything you could think of. First of all, you have the idea. Secondly, you build on that idea with your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, and finally you end up with that result. It all starts in the invisible, finishes in the visible. And the thing is, if we look at our results, we are not stuck with them. If we don't like the results we're getting, we can just track back to step number 2 and have a look at what we were thinking, what we were feeling, and what actions we were taking. And if we create change there, we can absolutely change our results. And if we don't like our idea, we can change our idea too, you know. But if we do like our idea and our idea isn't matching up to the result we want, then we can change. We have that power to change. It's in our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. You know, 85% of people apparently don't achieve their goals. Only 15% have the distinctions that will enable them to achieve their goals. A study was done by Dominican University that found that there were 5 groups of people tested. The first group just thought about their goal, right? The second group thought about the goal and wrote it down. The third group thought about it, wrote it down, and communicated it to a supportive friend. The fourth group thought, wrote, communicated, came up with an action plan. The fifth group thought, wrote, communicated, action plan, and came up with an accountability framework. Which group was most successful? The fifth group, of course. And you know what? That is a mastery club. Because a mastery club is when you write down your goal, you communicate it to a supportive friend, you set up an action plan, and that supportive friend provides a challenge and support system for you to make sure you achieve your goal, right? That's what we're doing here with this program. I hope you've enjoyed this first session. There is some homework for you now, okay? And what I would like you to do, first of all, make sure you do that exercise of dreaming big. What would you do if you had no fear of failure? If you were totally confident of succeeding, what would you tackle? Write that down. Then focus in and consider what specific goals would you like to achieve in your life. Look at all areas of your life. Consider your school or hobbies or work life. Consider your family and friends, your physical health, your spiritual life. You know, look at all areas of your life and write down those things. And then share them on the online forum so that we can start to support and challenge each other to achieve these goals. this program has given you, this session has given you a little tiny taste of what happens in the big Mastery Club program that goes out to schools and in the community. I hope you have enjoyed it and found it useful. If you want more information about the big program, just check the drop-down tab on the website, the menu that says 10 Lessons Program. Meanwhile, I will see you on the forum until next week when I deliver the next little video clip. And may your journey during these 10 weeks be blessed, and may our journey together be blessed. Thanks for your time, and please also do send through some feedback, because that's how I grow. Thank you. See you in a week.